Welcome to the IDP Hunter podcast. I'm your host, IDP Hunter, Steve Hungarter. Today, we're going to talk about the rookie draft class of 2025 defensive backs. We're going to talk about all those safeties. We're going to sprinkle in some corners. I don't know how you want to look at this, AJ. We could say it's a pre-combine or post-Senior Bowl podcast, but we're going to break down the whole entire safety position. I'm joined by my co-host, AJ Veal. What's going on, AJ? How are you?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Otherwise known as the Baby Cows.
Yeah.
What's new?
Not much, man. Gearing up for the combine, reading, studying, just
Ain't that the truth? And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring you on. I wanted you to talk about this safety class with me. But before we do that, I know you. We always hang out. We always talk and whatnot, especially at the Senior Bowl. Why don't you tell the audience about yourself? Why don't you list some of your credentials?
Yeah. So grew up playing ball in North Florida, then joined the Army. And in the Army, I kind of started writing and getting more into publishing articles, opinion pieces, breaking down pregame, postgame, drafts, so on and so forth. I kind of got into coaching while I was in the Army as well. Led my unit team to the Army Europe Championship game, came home, started coaching high school ball back in Florida. Then I got back into writing, and recently I got to go down to the Senior Bowl with Steve and do some scouting in person and, seeing these future stars come up. I'm also the commissioner of a Wounded Warrior fantasy football league. I've been the commissioner for this upcoming season, will be year 7. So folks with brain injury, takes a lot to on the cognitive side to kind of understand, track players, who's available, who's not, who's coming off injuries, player ages, is it dynasty league, is it not? So it's a lot of fun just seeing guys progress and get better each and every year, outside of your traditional therapies. This is just another recreational tool to help them get back, to some normal living.
So you guys are in for a treat tonight. We're doing defensive backs, but we're also talking to an accredited scout. We're talking to a former writer for the U.S. Army branch, and we're talking to a commish who runs a Wounded Warrior League. There's a couple interesting tidbits about your league. How do you guys do the draft?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, through all my travels with work and whatnot, I've met a lot of different professional and retired athletes. So we were able to get Trent Murphy to come on and select our draft order last season for my league. If you don't remember Trent Murphy, pretty sure he was a first-round pick out of Stanford, a massive human being, looks like a Viking. And he put all of our team names out on a tree and then used his bow, and the draft order went wherever his arrows were sticking in that tree. So we try to keep it interesting, change it up, keep folks involved. I write a weekly article breaking down, close games to watch, upset alert, and then fun facts.
I forgot you did that too. So thank you for bringing that up. I love your little weekly article. I'll tell you, when an NFL player, a former NFL player, mind you, does your draft and he shoots a bow and arrow, I'm listening. I'm listening. That's interesting to me. I too have some news. As you know, I write for RPO, I write for Fantasy Six Pack. We're putting together a rookie magazine for the site. So you guys that are tuning in, we're going to give you a little taste tonight. What are we going to do? We're going to do top 15 safeties. Yep. We're going to go a little deep, sprinkle in some cornerbacks.
Yep.
That's good for most leagues, but we want you guys to check out the magazine. We have rankings, we have a rating system, and we got, well in depth by position, not just defense, but also offense. So check that out. That'll be out probably in the next week or so over at the Fantasy Six Pack. Same site, AJ. And I know you know that I do this as well. I call it the Combine Cheat Codes, which is basically every position for the Combine, what to look for, things that give you a little bit of an edge in your league. This is actually free right now. If you guys want to check out the Fantasy Six Pack, it's the importance of Combine drills. We call it the cheat code. This is the ultimate contra test, the up, down, left, right, BAB start, if you will, for the NFL Combine. I list every single position, what you should be looking for. And of course, the IDP side, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. So, if you guys got a minute, if you're on the toilet, you got a good 10, 15 minutes, Check it out. That's where I do most of my reading anyway, AJ.
Yeah. It is 110% worth the read. I nerded out over it when Steve showed it on the way back from the Senior Bowl. I was like, where did you find this? If you like digging in deep and you like reading between the numbers, this article, I mean, read it 2 or 3 times, because come combine time, you're going to be able to kind of point things out that other folks might not be seeing.
That's kind of like I do these podcasts in a way. It's kind of like therapy. You just want to get all your thoughts out there. You want to get them all in the universe. So like I said, it's a bit of a deep dive. It's not a one-liner, that's for sure. You know what's interesting, AJ? When you get to safeties on here, there's a high bust rate for these guys because a lot of teams don't know what they're looking for. I mean, if you look at the advanced stats that I say to hunt for, we're looking at weight around 200, 211. We're looking at 40 times between 4.35, 4.66. We're looking at 3 cone times under 7 seconds. There's a lot of advanced metrics that you look for in this position. But I mean, geez, when I say that, that's a wide variety of players: tall, short, skinny, fat. I mean, free safety can play strong safety now, and so forth and so forth. So we need a bit of an edge. My audience needs a bit of an edge. So my question to you is, what do you think of this defensive back class, and any thoughts there that can help us out?
Overall, I think safety is a little bit deeper than corner, where I think corner's a little top heavy, and the rest of the corners are kind of just neck and neck. And I think after the combine, we'll start to see that separation. But I think just initially where we're at right now in the season is safety's offering a little bit more. Most of the guys that we're going to go over on safety today, they've been playing for 4 or 5 years. Gotcha. Corners, you're looking at 2 years as a starter, and they happen to be a red shirt. So I think that the safety is a little bit deeper. If you're looking for value depth, 6th, 7th round guys, whereas corner are going to be probably first 4 rounds, and then you're going to see some random guys from like Mississippi Valley State going. All
right, so let's kick it off. Who's your safety one here?
Oh, so staying local, going with Malachi Starks out of Georgia. I'm sure everybody's tracking him. Everybody's saying he's probably going to go mid to late first. 6'1", 205. If you watched any Georgia ball, he was around. 3-year starter on a top 10 defense the past 3 seasons. He's got 198 tackles, 17 pass deflections, 6 interceptions in a 3-year career. So while he's not this flashy ball hawk, he leads that defense. He's their outfielder. He's making big plays that don't necessarily have to show up on the stat sheet, but he's around and he does his job really, really well. And I think consistency is what a lot of folks like to key in on, right? He's only 3 years. He's coming out a year early, and I don't blame him. Now's the time to go. Who knows what happens to Georgia next season?
Right. For those that can't see my screen on YouTube, I literally pulled up some tape, some film on these players. For those on iHeartRadio, welcome in. For those on Spotify, welcome in. For those on Apple Podcasts, welcome in. Check out the YouTube channel. Like I said, I'm pulling up a lot of this on screen. You're just going to have to trust us that we know what we're talking about. Right, AJ?
Yep.
Starks got strong tape, though. I mean, you're looking at it right now. He's an elite run defender. The only critique I'm going to say, I mean, he's everybody's number one, so I'm not going to argue much here. But the only critique I'm going to say is some of his limitation in coverage, it's masked a little bit because he's just such a great box defender. But who cares? We're playing IDP. You know what I mean? He's the top guy for a reason. Would you say 6'1", 205? I think that's what you said, right? Georgia?
Yeah. He's playing with 10 other 4- and 5-star guys. But then to take a little bit off that mindset is he plays in the SEC. He's playing against high caliber teams, other 5- and 4-star high caliber players. So it's not like he's playing Kent State every week in and out, right? Padding stats. He's playing against future NFL players, and he has consistently for the past 3 years on the big stage in the college football playoff as well.
That's a good point, because like my rankings and your rankings, most of us were neck and neck on. There's a couple that were off. When you look at a guy from a smaller school, he's going to have better numbers against weaker competition. But this is a guy going against top consideration. That's a good point. AJ, who's your number 2?
I got Nick Emanowari from South Carolina. And this guy, just physically looking at his stats, his height and weight, you know, if you liked the Legion of Boom, this guy is Cam Chancellor 2.0. I don't necessarily know if he's going to lay the boom like Cam did, but 6'3", 227. I remember hearing about this guy when he was a freshman. I was like, who the hell is that? How do you even say that last name? But after 244 tackles, 11 pass deflections, and 6 interceptions, I'm sold on this guy. I would love him on my team, just on the size and intimidation factor alone. And when you see 244 tackles in 3 years, dude's not afraid to lay the wood, man. He's not afraid to wrap up, tackle, put him in the box, let him cover deep. Try going over a 6'3" guy on a deep ball. He's athletic enough to make that up. So I really like him. If Starks didn't have the pedigree on the team that he's on, I could see Nick jumping him. But it just so happened Nick was on a South Carolina team, not referencing this past season because they surprised a lot of people, but the 2 seasons before, he was really it, you know, until the rest of the South Carolina defense came around. So I really like Nick. I would definitely consider him a steal if you can get him.
You mentioned his height and weight, 6'3", 220. They actually, like scouts, they call that the unicorn. They're looking for unique size metrics. And a guy to be rumored to have 4.48 speed. Again, we're not at the combine yet. There's no telling what the guys are going to run. But a unicorn that big in size and speed, he's got that unique combination. That's an interesting prospect. Yeah. And I had him as my number 2 as well. I'm kind of interested to see what defensive coordinator he goes to and how he could command the presence in the scheme. And I want to see how they figure him out in the future. He's definitely a taxi stash for me. Yeah. He figures to be the DB2 coming off the board in the real NFL draft as well.
Yeah. Could you imagine him going to the Ravens next to Kyle Hamilton? Just like,
and they need the body too. Yeah, you know, that'd be great.
2 big safeties back there. Like, all right, put one in the box. Go deep. I don't care. I've got a 47-year-old corner in Marlon Humphrey. Throw deep on him. I don't care. I've got some big boys, you know, in the outfield backing them up, you know. So he's very interesting to me, and I hope he goes to a team that can truly use him correctly.
Gotcha. Curious who actually, I do know who your number 3 is because you've been talking him up for quite a while now. I'll have you talked me off the bridge because I had another guy in this spot and I listened to your rationale and I'm like, you know what? He makes a convincing case. So your number 3 is also my number 3, my friend. You want to tell the audience who that is?
Yeah, went with Xavier Watts, Notre Dame, 6 foot, 203, played 4 years, 189 tackles, 16 pass deflections. But the number that jumps out at you is the 13 interceptions. The dude has a nose for the ball. Everybody likes the interception stat line. And he's one of the few safeties that has this double-digit interception number, you know, making plays. He's an award winner. You know, we got to see them in the Natty playing on the big stage. You know, Notre Dame did typical Notre Dame fashion on the big stage, but they made it there, you know. And I think Watts, you know, you remember Trayvon Moehrig?
Yep, I do.
On the Raiders, right? He had similar stat line. He's not a super big guy. He's not the fastest, the strongest, but it's a high IQ type player. So I like Watts, man. I don't see him going past the 2nd round, especially when you have a guy that has hands like him.
Well, thank you. Great transition there. There's a unique story with Watts. You mentioned his hands, and you can see on film he's pretty much everywhere. He moves like a wide receiver, right? Well, that's the truth. He went from playing wide receiver to one of the top defensive playmakers in the country. Right now, AJ, there's a strong correlation of these offensive players that move to IDP, and we're seeing a ton in this draft as well and be very successful. So he's just another one of those players that used to be a former offensive player moving to IDP. It paid off for him to move. You just said it. He was the leader in the nation with interceptions. I believe he had 7 this year. What was the number that you had?
I have his career stats. So 13 career interceptions.
13 total, and then he doubled that this year. He had 7. He had half of his, not double, half of it this year at 7, right? He also won multiple awards. He was the mid-season All-American 2024. He was a first-team All-American year before, 2023, and he won the Bronco Nagurski Award winner in 2023. I like this guy as well. You talked me into him. I put him all the way up at 3. The tape is showing that he thrives, not just as a free, but in the box too, right?
Yeah. He can get dinged on his size and his weight, right? But when you have a guy just watching just these highlights showing, you're going to see a guy that's not afraid to get in there and tackle. Now, when it comes to Derrick Henry running up the middle, might be some hesitation, but that's what the weight room's for and all the nutritionists, right?
If you look at it, and that was my concern. He's 6 foot, okay? Can he get ran over? I don't know, but he plays the box well, and he diagnoses plays, and he's great at IDing the ball carrier. So it's almost like getting that extra run defender on the field. So he's a true playmaker. Again, DB3 for me, and I agree with you here.
Yep.
Now, what's interesting is our DB4. My DB4 is coming up. You don't even have him on your list. He's like deep. He's a deep punt to you. So what makes every podcast great is, that, you don't want to be on a podcast with somebody who's just going to agree with you. I agree with you, right? So it's always good to have this kind of conversation, okay? So I'm going to let you guys know, and I'm going to let the audience know, and I'll tell you what, just write in the comments if you agree with AJ, you agree with me. But we're gonna present our case for Mr. Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. He's a 6'2", 204-pound safety. He hits my metrics, and maybe that's the key word. Maybe the metrics don't match up on paper, but Kevin Winston Jr. is my number 4. AJ doesn't like him here. Tell us why you don't like him, AJ.
So I like to see the amount of games they played. I like to see their production. I would like to see, maybe as a freshman, they only played in that nickel position. So when I dug in on Kevin a little bit deeper, 3 years playing at Penn State, 89 tackles, 5 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. But then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm missing something that everybody else is seeing. So I watched some tape. Nothing wowed me, right? So I'm looking for maybe this Sean Taylor factor. Maybe, because people laying hit sticks isn't a trackable stat line. So I was like, well, let me see what, when he was playing high caliber teams, what he was putting up. And then that's where it kind of stuck out to me that it just wasn't adding up. So in 2023, because he didn't play that much in 2024 because of an ACL injury, and I know he had some injuries prior. Penn State played 4 ranked opponents in 2023 during those 4 games. And it's like 25th ranked Iowa, and they run the ball 90% of the time anyways. But he only had 29 tackles and 2 pass deflections. I expected to see maybe an interception or more solo tackles or something. So having him at 4 and the guy I have at 4, I've just seen a lot more film on, and I've seen him play on 2 different teams at a very high level in the playoffs. So Penn State's also in the Big Ten. They're kind of forgotten about outside the Ohio State, Michigan, type stuff. They never seem to really put it all together to make it to the next level. And I think with having, high quality defenders, a lot of those guys lean on each other, kind of the opposite of where I was going with Malachi Starks, right?
Yeah.
I think some guys actually play better than they actually are because of the team dynamic and the opponents that they're playing.
So here's the stat line that either makes or breaks the case. And again, it's always great to have a different opinion. Okay. Winston, did you guys know that he had a 2% missed tackle rate? That ranked second amongst safeties in the whole entire draft class. Plus, PFF got him as an 85 or higher grade for both run and pass defense. Okay, so he has all the metrics. Tape showing me he's a great sideline to sideline player. He's a top run defender, no question. However, AJ makes a great point. There's a difference between reading numbers off paper and then what you see when you watch film. You watch way more college than I do. There's no question to it. And you said it yourself, right? He's playing against lesser college. He's playing against lesser colleges, and they're running the ball in his face. So, of course, his stats are going to be a little bit padded up. Still, it's hard for me when I see those numbers, a 2% missed tackle rate. It's hard for me to put that down. I mean, I'll move him back a little bit, but I'm not going to drop him as far as you had him. Just for the audience at home, where did you have him at?
I think I got him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have him at 9.
See, so 4 to 9. So one of us is wrong here, but for the most part, our list is like together on point. We're thriving. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but that's Kevin Winston in a nutshell. He thrives. He thrives as a runner, as a run defender, not so much in pass coverage. And we're going to see the jury on him. I'm curious, AJ, who was your number 4?
Andrew Makuba.
He's my number Texas. 5. So yeah. So we are vibing again. Okay, what do you like about Andrew?
So this is another guy that was actually playing in South Carolina. He was playing for Clemson when I saw him play as a freshman. And a lot of these guys, I first learned about them when I'm reading my big magazine, the Phil Steele's College Big Book. And then, with the community keeping NCAA 14 alive, I played against these guys, and he was another guy wreaking havoc. And then I saw him go in the portal to go to Texas. And I was like, why would you leave Clemson, dude? You've been a starter at Clemson, but who's going to deny Texas oil NIL money? So it makes sense. 6 foot, 190 pounds, a 4-year starter, 211 tackles, 21 pass deflections, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 6 picks. Kind of does it all right. And he wasn't even the star in the secondary at Texas this year. We've got another guy we're going to reference later on the going down the corners, an award winner. I feel like he's Malachi Starks, just happens to play for Texas, right? He's around, he'll tackle, he makes big plays, he's clutch, high IQ type guy. I really like him, and his name's fun to say.
What's funny for me with this guy here, okay? I looked at a little bit of film on him. He can play box or deep, so teams are going to find a way to put him on the field. I just don't know what works best. He may be a 3 safety kind of guy working in those sets. He may be working dime packages, but he has the ability to play various positions and scheme fits. So for me, he's a top 5, top 6 in this class because he's showing his worth. You mentioned the Malachi. There's another Malachi coming up on this list. Me and you, our 6s and 7s are pretty strong. If you want to talk these guys together, you're welcome to. But who's the next guy on your list?
I've got Malachi Moore out of Alabama.
Okay.
Most people, the casual football fan, might have learned about this guy this year when Alabama lost to Vandy. You saw this Alabama diva, not used to losing, stomping off the field and having a hissy fit. That's when a lot of people first learned about Malachi Moore. Dude's been at Alabama for 5 years, 212 tackles, 24 pass deflections, 2.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 7 picks. He's played at a high level. And I heard Nick Saban doing a recruiting bit during COVID, talking about the guys you practice against are the best players in the country. They're better than every player we're going to play on Saturdays. This guy did that for 5 years, minus last year with Alabama's kind of dip since Saban left. But he was a leader on that team for a long time. He made a lot of big plays. He's very smart. I like that he can kind of move into a bunch of different positions. And I think that's what we're moving into, kind of how we saw linebackers a couple years ago get a little bit smaller and a little bit faster, better in coverage, not your traditional 1970 Pittsburgh Steeler linebacker. I think we're going to start seeing the safety position go to this weird hybrid role, more box, but they have enough speed to get back. And I think that's where Malachi Moore can kind of come in. He's not massive, but he's got production, and that's what I like. He's got games played against top-level competition for a long time.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but, we talk cover 2, cover 3, 4, 6. Nick Saban runs what's called a cover 7 defense. Really interesting scheme. I don't want to, waste too much time talking about it here. But anyway, a safety in a cover 7 scheme, you got to have a high football IQ. You got to. So his landing spot's going to elevate him next level. So I think you have a possible gem here in Malachi Moore. And he's about the right weight. He's going to put on a little bit more weight when he gets there. But 6'1", 198, I can see him as a, as a leader in the backfield. Who's your next guy?
I've got Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma, little shorter than normal at 5'10", 200. Right. But going back to, in my big board right here, my rankings are not based on where guys are going to get drafted. It's who I feel in the order. If I were the GM, all right, this is my list. So I like production, right?
Yep.
So Billy's got 4 years, 199 tackles, 13 pass deflections, 2 forced fumble. And what kind of surprised me was the 11 interceptions. He's flying around, and Oklahoma by any means is not known for stellar defense. Before they moved to the SEC, it's like, oh, this game's going to be another shootout. 72-71 final score. They don't play defense in the Big 12. They don't play defense. This guy plays defense.
Yeah.
So like if this is the lone stud, and I think there's a couple guys coming out of that Oklahoma defense that are going to get drafted this year, but he was the leader. I like him. He's got a good football name, and he's got the stats to back it up.
So you mentioned his height and weight, and that's pretty much the only thing going against him right now. Maybe his tackle ability is questionable, but 5'10", 190, I have concerns. But when you look at his entire profile, he's a cheat code. He profiles as a better man defender than his own coverage defender, but he showcased 9 interceptions this year, 3 of which were returned for touchdowns. He's got 249 interception return yards since 2022 to 2023. He led the nation as far as a big impact kind of player. As you said, we want stats. I'm kind of itching right now. When you get money coming in, they say the wise tales, your fingers itch a little bit. I'm itching right now to get a guy like that on my team. Hey, AJ, I want him on my Madden team. I just want to press triangle and just let him roam back and forth in coverage, get those high picks. He's a high impact player, and for some reason, he comes down with the football all the time. For guys like this that just know football, I kind of throw the stats out the window. I'm looking at him as a late round pick. Initially, I had him as my DB6, but I am concerned a little about the height. I am concerned about the scheme fit, whatever. So I put him down as my DB7-ish on my board, but I can probably get him in the bigger leagues that I play in as a late round pick, and I'm happy for him. This next tier coming up, there's a lot of players that you squint your eyes and you're like, yeah, maybe. And this is just one of those guys, but I think he leads the pack. Just because you said numbers matter. It matters what you do. So,
when it comes down to it, where we're getting at on the list, you got so many guys with so much potential. So if you're looking for factors to make a decision on who you want, the easiest thing to do is go off their body of work, right? So if me and Steve are both 6 foot, 200 pounds, we've both played for 4 seasons. Steve has 200 tackles and I have 100. Okay, well, why does Steve have to? Oh, AJ's got off the field issues, or AJ gets injured a lot, or AJ, focuses more in the back half of the secondary in coverage, and he doesn't like tackling that much. So that is kind of a way to get down to it and find those differentiating factors.
That's a good point. I got in a debate with a analyst about 2 years ago now, and he's like, "You look at stats a lot. I look at like metrics and PFF. That's great. A guy could grow into that or has the potential to do that, but I do look at stats a little bit more, and I'm not expecting those stats to go with them the next level. But I like to know how a player profiles. I like to know how he tackles. I like to know the way he runs. And this next player on our list, we both have him in the same tier here. This next player is kind of similar. AJ, tell everybody who your next player is.
He won the Natty, right? He was probably a better player than he was given credit for. He played on that Buckeye defense. And Lathan Ransom, great football name too. 6'1", 210, plays the part. What's he got? 5 years, 226 tackles, 13 pass deflections, 3.5 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, and 3
How's that
picks.
for production?
Yeah. Oh. I mean, he's got the ideal size. He's got the numbers to back it up. I mean, to play 5 years for the Buckeyes and then wrap up his career, winning a ring. But he's not a flashy guy. I think he's your. I'll put on my pants the same way as my daddy did. Go out there, do your job.
That's why he's so lower on our list. But you said it, he's a championship winner. I mean, the tape shows you he's got size, speed, he's got impact ability. Play at Ohio State, he clearly has to have a football IQ to stay on the field. This, like I said, this tier here are players that I know I'm probably going to end up with on a taxi squad somewhere. But I like that dude.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the differentiating factors or the comparisons, right? Drafting a guy like when we were talking earlier about Kevin Winston, guy on potential, right? Doesn't have a great body of work, but talking on potential. I don't know if I'm more conservative on this, but there's 2 players currently in the NFL that you can key in on, right? The Jaguars took Trayvon Walker and the Lions took Aiden Hutchinson. Trayvon Walker going first overall blew my mind. But they're like, he's got so much potential. He's got such a high ceiling, so on and so forth. Hutchinson had the numbers, the ring, the awards to back it up, and it translated right in the NFL. And Walker's now going into year 3, year 4, like starting to come around, but he's still not the same caliber player. So, for me, if I'm the GM, I'm looking at that body of work because you can't judge a man's potential, even when you hire him for a job. Like, this guy might be a great janitor, but maybe he doesn't use bleach, or so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? It's the potential thing. It's not a gradable. It's not something tangible you can lock into. The numbers don't lie, and that's what I'm getting at on why I'm more conservative and on my rankings and who I build my teams around. I want the numbers there.
Gotcha. So just to recap real quick for the audience, we got Malachi Starks at 1, we got Nick at DB2, we got Watts at 3, we got Winston at 4. I had Winston at 4. You did not, I know. So you got Andrew Makubu at 5. We have Malachi Moore at 6, Billy Bowman at 7. Then we got Lathan Ransom at 8. I'm on my 9, which is your 8 right now. So I actually got 2 guys in here, and I know you have it different. So I'll tell you what, why don't you read your next guy on the board, and then I'll read mine, and we'll be caught back up. Okay. Who's your next player?
I probably a no-name guy to a lot of people, and I just like him. He's scrappy. Anytime I did watch them, and it was very hard to watch any of Iowa football for the past couple of years, just because their offense is non-existent unless you like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But I went with Sebastian Castro. He was actually at the Senior Bowl. I pointed him out to y'all. Little small, 5'11", 205, 4 years at Iowa, 163 tackles, 14 pass deflections, 2 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 4 interceptions. And the forced fumbles, what sticks out to me, right? Because when you see 5'11", 205, and you even see him play, it's like I'm not seeing 5 forced fumbles come out of this little scrappy dude. But that shows the IQ, right? Oh, he's toting the ball high. let me punch it out right here, or I need to make a play. We need to force this turnover. And then we can also talk about the Iowa secondary. Iowa has a top defense. There's big names getting drafted out of the Iowa defense, like we saw in the Super Bowl, or Riley Moss out in Denver, or, Jack Campbell for the Lions. This guy is probably going to go way later in drafts. I like him. That's a guy I want in my locker room and I want on my team. Even if he's only playing special teams, I like what he brings to the table.
Well, you said it yourself, 5'11", 220. Okay. When you mentioned him, I wasn't sure who he was, so I had to go back and look at film. You have to go back and look 2 years for this guy to tell the overall case study. He had a strong 2023. Actually was named Pro Football Focus, had him as their first team All-American honors, and he was a second team All Big Ten recognition. So when you look at this tape, he does profile as a hard-hitting, maybe a back of the zone type safety. He's a bit undersized, and maybe he'll fall in draft boards. So I like this pick here for you, because I was one pick in front of you at this point when we were mocking this. But I like this pick here for you because it makes sense in the NFL if everyone's doubting this guy because he's a free and he's playing in zone and he's undersized and what have you, whatever. Whenever you knock a guy, that puts a chip on himself, and then maybe he's somebody that falls in draft boards, but he goes to a really great team. So I like that. So Sebastian Castro is your flag plant for this episode, huh?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm going to go to my DB10 here. And I know this isn't your DB10. I know you got this guy a little bit deeper. So I'm going to explain some rationale. Believe it or not, this guy was at the Senior Bowl too. And you pointed out he got hurt. So we didn't get to see anything on this guy. So this is me just kind of talking after the fact here. Okay. This isn't really anything that we seen up close and we got to see. But this guy here, when you're talking DB10 in a draft and it's already a deep class, why not take a shot at some Maxim Hook? What a name. What a comic book name. Maxim Hook. Okay. Yep. Like I said, we didn't get to see him up close like I wanted to, but the tape here, it shows like he can be a pretty good run defender. He can move around the line of scrimmage. He's got 1,500 snaps there playing in the box and 600 deep. He did earn a 3-time consecutive All-MAC selection, so it's not like he can't play football. It's just you got him a little bit lower than me. Any thoughts on this player or any reasons why you had him lower?
Yeah, so I remember when this guy kind of showed up his freshman year, and this was before MACtion on Tuesday nights. The MAC conference, the Mid-American Conference, moved to Tuesday night football, right? So Tuesday nights are filled with me watching Buffalo and Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan. And, Toledo is probably a top 3 team in the MAC as it is. Had a lot of guys transfer out for NIL. Maxon stayed, but I want to go over this number with you just because I'm keying in on these stats and why they're important. 359 tackles for a safety, 359, right? So when we were talking about lower caliber teams, is he a high caliber guy playing on a low caliber team, or was he truly a no-name guy that made a name for himself by getting dirty, gritty, making plays? 359 tackles, 15 pass deflections, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 7 picks. I do like him. I don't know if his athleticism is going to translate in the NFL. It translated in the MAC as one of the top guys in the secondary. I see him as a special teamer, or maybe initially start out kind of that Reed Blankenship role and then play his style of football and eventually come on and play. I do like him, but I think his athleticism is going to be limited until we see what he can do on Sundays. So I think he'll be on a roster for sure. We need to see more. I don't even know if he's going to run at the combine or not.
Gotcha. So yeah, if he doesn't run at the combine, I'm a little concerned because he didn't play in the Senior Bowl either. We've seen him. You pointed out he hopped off the field, but I I hate that because these guys are so they got to be durable if they're going to play that box position. But we got a lot of hybrids underneath these guys that can play linebacker, safety. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out too. But I'll tell you what, that's our top 10 as far as film goes, as far as tape goes. Let me read to you this final tier from like DB11 to 15. I'm just going to read them in order. Tell me who you want to point out. Tell me who you like, okay? So we got DB11, Jalen Reed. DB12, Jonas Stanker. DB13, Hunter Wohler. DB14, Shiloh Sanders. Lower than most people would say, right? And DB15, RJ Mickens. You want to pick those apart? You want to talk about some of those guys? I don't have any tape, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, I want to I want to key in on one guy, and it's Hunter Wohler. All right, another white DB coming out of Wisconsin, out of the Big Ten.
I like him too.
6'2", 218. Right, so he's got the size. Stats: 4 years, 229 tackles, 13 pass deflections, 2 sacks, and only 3 picks. I think he's similar breakdown to Maxon Hook, but he did play against better competition. This is one of those guys, we could see the NFL kind of do, and maybe people don't remember this or know this, with Brian Urlacher, right? He was a safety coming out of college, and they beat him up when he got in the NFL. So this guy's already got some size on him. He has a frame that can pack on weight. That hybrid role you were kind of mentioning and that we talked about a little earlier. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens with him. But it just somebody to keep an eye on. Maybe he'll shoot up a little bit higher in the combine if he grades good. If he doesn't, hopefully he makes a practice squad.
You said potential and stats. Those are the two things that jump out to me. Hunter Wohler, potential and stats. 2023, he did lead the Big Ten defensive backs with 120 tackles. So that's something. That's the highest any Badger DB's done since 1991. He had 74 solos, AJ. So that tops all defensive backs nationally. First team, all Big Ten honors. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week accolades. Like I said, they don't just hand those out to people. So he's going to produce somewhere for somebody, even if he's in like a third safety kind of big hitting role. But I like that name jumps up to me. Question for you, Shiloh Sanders at 14. You think that's fair?
Yeah, I'm not sold on his film. 6 years in college. He did a lot of different transferring. I think he started out South Carolina, transferred with Daddy to Jackson State, then went out to Colorado. And, when I was coaching ball, a lot of the kids had this mentality, every play needs to be a big play, right? There's 10 other guys on the field with you. You don't have to hit stick every play. You don't have to make a big play every day. Do your job, and it'll work out. And I think just because of his last name, that's what he tries to do. So I've seen him do a lot of whiffs. I've seen a lot of busted coverage, but I think because of who he is, he's going to get picked up. So I was like, if I don't put him on my board, it takes the realism out of it for me. The guy's going to get picked up, and he could be a practice squad player.
Think off a name alone?
Yeah. He's got pedigree. He learned from his dad. Obviously, he's not the best. He's also not the worst. Maybe he does better in the combine, and maybe he's able to kind of hone in more and stop worrying about gold chains and dancing, meeting rappers before games.
What's interesting about our DB14 and DB15 on this list, they both have fathers that were in the NFL. Shiloh, son of Hall of Fame Deion Sanders. RJ Mickens, son of Ray Mickens. Both have had injuries. Shiloh, of course, having shoulder injuries, set him back 6 months. Despite that, he earned second team all SAAC honors. Ray Mickens is more like RJ Mickens, he profiles more as like a multiple package kind of guy. But I think, like you said, to your point, somebody's going to pick him up because of name value and DNA. That's a real thing. Like, do you ever see these players and their sons and their cousins and their siblings? They just have a muscle memory for the game. So I think somebody somewhere is going to pick those guys up and take a shot with them.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with the Super Bowl this year, they were literally showing Jeremiah Trotter as like a 4-year-old on the field when Philly won that Super Bowl, or at least went. And then they're showing him again, as a grown man on the field with his father winning his own Super Bowl. So it's like, if you grow up around it, you're going to training camps with your dad, you're learning, your dad's probably coaching you. So you're going to get NFL coaching maybe at the age of 8, 9, 10. We've seen what Chris Carter did with his son Duran down at St. Thomas Aquinas down in Florida, a powerhouse. So these guys are getting NFL pedigree coaching at an early age. So and also it's funny to look at it too, because you're like, damn, I'm getting old. Like the guys we grew up watching, now their sons are playing. Like, I'm still doing the same thing, and now their kids are playing ball.
Hey, AJ, we went deeper than most in this podcast. We talked 15 defensive backs, and we're about to go a little bit deeper. We're going to talk some cornerbacks too and sprinkle them in and see how they would rank in the 15. But before I ask that question, let me ask a predated question here. This top 15, is there anybody I'm leaving out? Is there anybody you're leaving out? Is there anybody on your radar? Is there any dart throws you're looking at here?
There's one guy that I have kind of in back to that hybrid role, listed as a corner that I really, really like. And he's an award winner. He's not a secret hidden gem. It's Jahdae Barron out of Texas. When I was talking about Makuba not being the star, it was all Barron. 5'11", 200. When I see this guy play, y'all, you're going to have to go back many, many years, y'all. Look up Bob Sanders. That's the vibe I'm getting. Bob Sanders was the truth. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't very tall. I think he was 5'9". I just see Barron kind of translating that, man. 221 tackles, 23 pass deflections, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 8 picks. He won the best DB award this year, man. He flies around and he can play every position. I wouldn't even mind lining this dude up at linebacker. He'll get in there and make a play, and I think he could translate over to the safety position on a team that needed him to fill in.
Oh, there's a ton of linebackers this year that are going to transition to DB, and that's what the new NFL, has to offer. I had one guy in here, and it's the opposite. He actually is positioned as a safety. I think when we've seen him at the Senior Bowl, Upton Stout, I think he's going to get moved to like a slot corner role, which is what he should excel at. These slot corners now, because a lot of teams are only playing 2 linebackers or 1. These slot corners act like that second, third linebacker now, and they're getting a lot of meaty tackles. And I think Upton Stout, if he goes to the right team and he plays that slot role, he's going to be valued. So some of these guys are out of position. But yeah, that's my guy there, I guess, if I call my shot. AJ, question for you. I'm going to read your cornerback rankings, okay? You don't have to go through every single one because a lot of us don't play cornerback leagues. But you had number 1, CB1, you had Will Johnson out of Michigan. CB2, you had Travis Hunter out of Colorado. CB3, Jahdae Barron out of Texas. CB4, Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. CB5, Siobhan Revel out of Eastern Carolina. CB6, Trey Amos, Ole Miss. CB7, Azare Thomas out of Florida State University. You went deep, buddy. CB8, Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. CB9, Denzel Burke out of Ohio State. And CB11 and 12, you got Darian Strong out of Virginia Tech and Jason Marshall out of Florida. What do you like about those guys? Feel free to talk. I don't have anything else. I don't want to rush you, but a lot of us don't play these corners. I'm more interested in any of those 12 crack into the top 15.
Man, so when we were talking earlier, when we opened up, we were talking about top heavy, right? I've got Will Johnson, Travis Hunter, Barron, and Morrison. Those are your locks, right? I think those are the top guys. The rest, I think, between combine, how they interview, and then just how the draft falls, I think Trey Amos could move up, and I think Denzel Burke could move up. And then another guy that's probably not on a lot of people's list when I was doing my research, this guy was really low. I got to watch him play a lot just because I'm a Gator fan, but it's Jason Marshall. 4 years, 98 tackles, 26 pass deflections and 2 picks. He was, probably the best player on the Florida defense the past couple of years. Battled some injuries but he's got that pedigree, man. He was a 5-star. I was super stoked when he decided to come to Gators. Never quite lived up to that hype. Then again, the Gators are kind of in an influx year the past couple of years. Trey Amos is very intriguing. He played at Louisiana, then transferred to Alabama, and then it all came together at Ole Miss. He's got some good production, 31 pass deflections, right? It's like, what? To only 4 picks. So while he might not be a ball hawk, that means he's around the ball. If he's got 31 pass deflections, dude's around. That's what you like to see. So I think if he tests well, it'll go good. And then just to see how Revel out of East Carolina, how he's healing from that injury. He's got a pretty cool story, working at like an Amazon warehouse, JUCO, coming to ECU. Doesn't have a lot of stats to go off of. This is one of your potential picks. This guy's got, a high ceiling. If we get him in the right scheme, get him healthy, he can become a shutdown corner. Those are really – Denzel Burke is another kind of like Ransom at Ohio State. Burke was the freshman starter at Ohio State. He started all 4 years at Ohio State. To come in as a freshman at a powerhouse like that and start, that says something. That's really the guys I like. I want to key on, and I just want to keep an eye on and see how they perform in the combine. And I'd like to see them play on Sundays.
Just a recap for this podcast, for those that scroll to the end here. The DB top 15 that we had Malachi Starks. DB2, we had Nick Umanwari. I think I said that right. DB3, Xavier Watts. My DB4, Kevin Winston Jr. We're back on track. DB5 was Andrew Makuba. DB6 was Malachi Moore. DB7, Billy Bowman. DB8, Lathan Ransom. DB9, Sebastian Castro. It's AJ's top pick there. Excellent there. DB10, Maxim Hooker. And then the bottom tier guys, we have a DB11, Jalen Reed. DB12, Jonas Sanker. DB13, Hunter Whirler, who might be actually our sleeper in this draft in the right situation. DB14, Shiloh Sanders. DB15, RJ Mickens. And for those that did not just listen to the cornerbacks, we are loaded at corner this year. He went 12 deep, but we're thinking Will Johnson and Travis Hunter are probably the only two that would get in that top 15, AJ.
Yeah. I mean,
where'd you put them?
What's that?
Where'd you put them if you put them with the safeties?
I'm putting Will Johnson with the safeties. I'm putting him right after Watts.
Okay.
And if I'm playing Hunter at safety, I'm putting him behind Malachi Moore.
Okay. Makes sense to me. Okay, so that's what we have for this episode. I'm just going to say one more thing, guys. If you guys are looking at combine drills, I just wrote the article. Check out the Fantasy Six-Pack and keep an eye on this. We got award-winning rankings. Joe Bond was number 1 on Fantasy Pros. We have a top 10 baseball team. We play golf. We got all kinds of different formats over here, all types of different sports, hockey, DFS, what have you. Check out the Fantasy Six-Pack. We have the most accurate rankings in various sports. I myself am the top 10 every year in IDP as well. But yeah, check that out because we're about to do a rookie magazine, which is going to be really neat. That was just the tip of the iceberg. We're going super deep offense, defense, what have you. And then last but not least, check out my Combine Cheat Code article. I'm pretty proud of this. It goes way deep, and it talks about just the important drills, what to look for. I mean, the combine's coming up. Check it out. See if it correlates with your teams. It's just kind of neat to be a little couch GM. You know what I mean?
Yep.
AJ, I don't have anything else this episode, man. You did such a wonderful job. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for doing this for us. Can you tell the audience where they can find you?
Yeah, the baby cow, in reference to my last name, Veal. So you can find me on Twitter, and I've actually hopped on a couple of different podcasts with Steve. We did a mock a couple weeks back, and
love doing these with you.
You know, so yeah, I'll be around.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we can get Trent Murphy on the show. Well, not the show per se, but maybe we can get that draft televised, and then we can record it and kind of show it on screen here. You know,
that's the perks of being the commish. I'll make the decision, so I can make it happen.
Heck yeah! But I love doing these with you. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing your insights. I tell the audience all the time, if they keep listening, we'll keep making these. So we're just going to keep on rolling with this. We're on a quest to hit 3K views, 3K subscribers really soon here. We just keep climbing up in numbers. There's a giveaway. See Jamie Pierogue's message about the giveaway. He's doing a jersey giveaway and a ring giveaway. All you got to do is hit subscribe in the comments below. Type in the word Jamie Pierogue's giveaway. And sure enough, he'll be putting that out. He'll be mailing it out to everybody. But anyway, I just want to say appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. And we're just going to continue this up until the combine. So see you next week for the next episode, and talk hard, everybody.